Have you ever found yourself in a room full of people, yet felt completely alone? Not because you're antisocial, not because you don't belong, but because your thoughts run deeper than the conversations around you? If that's ever been you, let me tell you something that might change the way you see yourself. You're not broken, that's self. You're not too much. Fuller, you're just tuned into a different frequency. Fuller, a frequency that not everyone can hear. Throughout history, those who thought deeply have walked a lonely path. Not because they were strange or reclusive, but because they asked the kinds of questions most people are afraid to confront. People like Soren Kierkegaard, who wrestled with faith and despair. Simone Weil, who stared directly into the soul of suffering. And Nietzsche, who warned that if you gaze too long into the abyss gazes back. These weren't just thinkers. They were seers, people who looked beneath the surface of life, at meaning, morality, pain and power, and refused to accept easy answers. But here's the catch. Society doesn't hate thinkers because they're wrong. It resents them because they're right too soon. When someone sees the flaws in the system before the system is ready to change, they become a threat. They threaten comfort. They challenge certainty. And when you threaten people's sense of safety, especially their mental safety, you become inconvenient, and inconvenient voices, they get ignored, or worse, silenced. Let's talk psychology for a moment. When someone walks into a room with visible muscles, we admire their dedication. When someone flaunts wealth, we might envy them, but we don't feel personally attacked. But when someone introduces a challenging idea, or questions a belief we've held for years, that's when people get defensive. Because intelligence doesn't just inform, it reflects. It holds up a mirror. And what do mirrors do? They show us things we've ignored, avoided, or denied. Psychologists call this an ego threat. It's not about arrogance, it's about presence. The presence of someone who dares to think differently. This isn't new. Over 2000 years ago, Plato told a story, the allegory of the cave, prisoners chained in a cave watching shadows on the wall. Believe the shadows are reality. But one prisoner escapes. He sees the world as it truly is. He returns to the cave to share the truth, but he's not welcomed as a hero. He's mocked, feared, rejected. Why? Because the truth is blinding when you've lived your whole life in the dark. And that cave, it's not just metaphorical, it's social. It's psychological, it's cultural. We build it every day. When we reward confidence over curiosity, when we celebrate simplicity over nuance, when we prioritize comfort over clarity, we choose the cave. That's why the loudest voices in society often aren't the wisest. They are the most agreeable, the most familiar, the least disruptive. Meanwhile, the quiet minds, the observers, the analysts, the philosophers, they get pushed to the margins. But here's something you may need to hear. That solitude, that feeling of being on the outside looking in, it's not a punishment. It's a sign. It means your mind sees what others don't yet. And while that can be isolating, it's also powerful. Because every major shift in human thought, every revolution, every awakening, began with someone who thought differently. They were once the outliers. And eventually, they became the visionaries. So if you've ever felt alienated, misunderstood, or dismissed for your ideas, don't shrink to fit in. Don't pretend to be comfortable with shallow waters when you were born to dive deep. Keep thinking. Keep asking. Keep seeing. Because deep thinkers don't just observe reality, they reshape it. And even if the world isn't ready for your mind yet, it needs it. So the next time you feel alone in a crowd, remember this. You might not be in the wrong place. You might just be ahead of your time. If this resonated with you, share it with someone else who walks the path of the quiet thinker. Subscribe for more content on philosophy, psychology, and the power of the human mind. Stay thoughtful, stay curious.